But for tonight, we're gonna talk about some music. We're gonna talk about "Pray for Paris" album of the year.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
think so?
Yeah. I mean, it's rare that I hear an album and like I don't judge an album like sometimes like really off the first track. I expect your first track to be dope. If your first track's not dope, we have a problem.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to swing for the fences on that one.
You got to go. It's got to be something.
Yo, Sean's Grill said it was trash. It's not album of the year.
Wow. I'm
All
sorry
right,
that
well, go ahead and plead your case
I'm
and
gonna. I'm.
why what you
You,
think about the album.
you know why? I think he means my new shit hard.
Okay, I got you. Well,
I
we're
mean,
gonna check out your shit.
I was about to say, send it. Stop trying to send people to the YouTube page on here. Just send us your stuff, fam. You know,
We here, man. You got the DM.
everybody's still stuck. I mean, kind of, sort of, maybe. You know,
But yeah, what do you think about "Pray for Paris" by Westside Gunn?
I love it. I really love it, Mike. I mean, there's a few levels to it in which I'm enjoying it. You know, I've heard. I was about to say since what's his? I mean, the gentleman who wanted to critique. Since we want to talk about critiques, I've heard a lot of people complain about like they don't care for Gunn as much because of his voice. They're like, oh, I can't listen to that for a whole album. Well, one of the beautiful things about this album, I think, how about this? He may not be the MC that you enjoy to hear on what they're doing and what they're on as far as Griselda over Conway or over Benny, but he's with this album he proved himself to be a song maker. These songs sound very full, they sound complete, and he knows what his niche is and he knows what he's good at, and he doesn't overstate it, he doesn't overplay it, he plays it very, very, very well,
I
very
agree
well,
with that,
like super
and I think that
like
the features add to that too.
that's what I mean. Like when people are like, "Oh, I can't listen to him for a whole album." It's like, well, you're not really listening to him for a whole album. He put it together as such, so that you don't really listen to him all the time for a whole album. So that complaint really isn't valid because it's not overstating his voice, and I don't really have a problem with his voice while we're on the subject of the matter.
I think that for some people, and I don't have a problem with it either, but I've heard people, like you said, the people that critique, I've heard them say that his ad libs are repetitive, but everybody's ad libs are repetitive. I think that just goes to the fact that people don't really love his voice like that. Um,
But that's his
Benny's
song.
my favorite
Like
on the
my
mic.
hold on, huh?
Go ahead.
Say,
I was gonna say Benny's my favorite on the mic, but I do think that Westside puts together the best songs, albums, skits, and production. I think he picks the best production of the three, honestly.
so that's what I mean. I mean, didn't Benny win MC of the Year 2019 for us?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, and I think that was valid. I remember when you had like asked me about it, and in my thoughts, it's like, well, I can't really argue with you, Mike. I really didn't have anybody to give you last year. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so I thought it was valid. But here's what I would submit to you: like Griselda's like actually like this album for me. I mean, I'm afraid to call it a classic because I know what my personal aesthetic is for hip hop,
Hmm.
and this is kind of in the pocket of what I love. So I'm going to tell you just like kind of like what my aesthetic is briefly. Like, if you're not teaching me something, I want you to kick that shit. And he's kicking that shit very well on this album, like I said. And so is the whole team. And it's beautiful. It's like you said, the track selection. I'm, I mean, the chemistry between the three of them on the Allah Sent Me. It's like like
Hmm.
George Bondo. When I heard George Bondo, that was the track that got me excited. Like when I'm listening to the album, I heard the intro. Like first of all, it's like it has the pieces of a lot of classic albums. It's like when you look at the cover, it's very original. It has the look of one of those covers that you're going to remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. You look at that
Oh yeah,
cover, it's a dope cover.
it is. I'm
It's an
pulling
original.
up right now.
and it's an original piece of art, if I'm not mistaken. He actually
Is
had
it?
like a friend of his like actually do that for the
Well, I
album.
know right away one of the things that grabbed you is you felt that, he did, well, you read the story about the fact that he went to Paris and was inspired to actually put this together.
Well, so so here are some of the nuances of the album that I talked about, and you and me have talked behind the scenes about this when it comes to like Nas with the Bonjour record. It's like I've been to France, so it's like some of the stuff that he's kicking and even the phraseology, and I want people to understand something too. He's making a parody of it in a lot of ways too. Like it's also a satire in a sense. So it's a concept album and there's satire to it, but it's still a gangsta East Coast rap album too. Like that's pretty well played, Mike, wouldn't you
Yeah,
say? And it's
yeah, I
well
think
put
so.
together. And when I mean it's well put together and has the makings of a classic album, it even has like the song titles that fit the theme of the album that make you feel like it's a classic. The album's called Pray for Paris. You know, he's got Euro Step on there. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
He's thinking about it. That's what I mean. It's like he may not be like who you want him to be on the mic, like lyrically or voice wise, but he's out thinking a lot of guys right now with how he's putting his records together. And think about this. He took a whole theme for an album and still found a way to do the whole Griselda thing, not only with putting his daughter on there and y'all
Of
still
course.
and doing all that, but also with using still the whole wrestler thing, also keeping Conway and Benny involved on the stuff that you hear him on where it's just him. It's usually just one verse, Mike, and then he's out, and it's beautiful.
Exactly. I was
Versace,
gonna say that.
Versace, Eurostep, No Vacancy. I love all those records, and he just goes in, goes off, gets out, gone.
Like you said, I think he's just very smart with how he puts things together. He knows his limitations and he knows his strengths. He knows how to put stuff together. Certain people just know how to make music, man. And he's one of those guys.
I was going to say that, Mike. See, now you took the words out of my mouth. I was actually going to say one of my thoughts was is that he, through the process of recording and his buildup, has learned his limitations. And unlike a lot of people who try to overstep their boundaries when they have limitations, he's like, no, I'm going to do what I'm great at greater. And that's what this album is. It's more concise than Supreme Blientele. The beat selection is slightly better. He's a better MC delivery wise, song structure wise, conceptually. I mean, how about this? Since I've been listening to it, the last record I heard like this that made me feel this way was Hell Hath No Fury by the Clips, and you know how I feel about that
Oh
record.
wow. That's
Yeah,
big. Not
like
even
Mike,
Daytona?
I don't think you understand. Like I haven't given any albums any play. And that's what I mean. It's album of the year, and it's clear because other than that, I've just been going through the songs that I want to hear. But I've been playing this stuff for about the last 6 days now, Mike. I mean, I really have, and not
Front to
because
back.
we're critiquing it. Like it's like no, I'm enjoying it. It's that good. I'm working out to it. I'm driving to it. You know what I'm saying?
Isn't that a great feeling, man, when you can actually listen to a record just because you want to, as opposed to
Yeah,
it being a job? I mean,
yeah.
people don't understand how different it is when you kind of have to go out there and come with an assessment for a record and you make
I've
yourself listen to it. It's tough.
I've killed a
But
lot of
when you
albums because
really, I think Daytona's the last album for me like that. I like
you
the
see,
plugs I met too, Benny. When I heard that, I was listening to that over and over.
the plugs I met is really dope. I mean, you and I agree that Daytona is a classic, but here's what I would submit to you. I bought up kind of Hell Hath No Fury. It's because I don't care what anybody says. Like that album came out in a time where a lot of like big time MCs were dropping, but it was the better album by far. And for them to be talking what they were talking, and for it really not to have any real singles like that, kind of like this album, and for it to be clearly better than like Nas's like Hip Hop Is Dead album, Jay's Kingdom Come, like Games, I think Doctor's Advocate, I think Jeezy dropped around that time too.
What was that? Oh 07?
Oh 06.
Oh 06?
That was
Was
oh 06.
King out or was that the
It
year
dropped
after?
November because it dropped November of oh 06. My
Okay.
daughter was on the way. I remember that time well. Yeah. But that's what I mean. So here's what I would submit to you about Daytona. Daytona had Victory Lap to contend with.
Hmm.
It wasn't just Daytona that I was playing. I was playing Victory Lap by Nipsey too.
Yeah,
Like
it was a lot out in 2018.
that
I
was a
mean,
great year. Like he had some run. He had some comp. Do I think Daytona is the best album? Yeah. Do I think Daytona is a classic? Yeah. But it's like so is Victory Lap.
for me, let's go back to '06. Because for me, I feel like Hell Hath No Fury, just looking at what came out, that might have been the runaway album of the year, at least for me. But
Yeah, that's what I'm
Doctor's
saying.
Advocate, King, and Food and Liquor were highly regarded as well.
They're not
I
bad.
love Lupe. I've always liked Lupe as an MC. I've never been a big fan of Food and Liquor like that. I'm gonna be honest.
I like the Cool better. Food and Liquor is solid to me. I feel the same way you do. Like I'm not like in all Food and Liquor like a lot of people. I think it's a really good record. I enjoy the Cool more.
I feel
Dumb It
like
Down.
he became a better MC after that.
That's why I'm about to say Dumb It Down. Like lyrically is some of the best stuff I've ever heard.
Yeah. Ghost came out with Fish Scale. I remember buying that. I wasn't too,
Was Fish
whatever.
Scale 06 or was that
Yeah.
05? Fish
Oh
Scale's 06.
06.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, Fish Scale is '06. Hell Hath No Fury isn't so clear. But I'm gonna tell you what. When did Fish Scale drop? Because I guarantee. Because I remember Hell Hath No Fury dropped in November. Fish Scale must have
It
dropped.
might have been early. It might
It
have been
might have been
early. Let's
early.
see.
So there might have been a gap. Like I
It
would say,
was in March. It was in
there we
March
go. I would say there's like a
'06.
7-8 month gap probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
But by the time, but
Idlewild, I don't even count Idlewild as an Outcast
Idolize stuff.
album.
But what I'm saying is that the Clips, I bought up those other albums because the Clips literally dropped their album around the time those guys' album were dropping, and it was clearly better than all that stuff when
I
guys were
think King
out.
was one of T.I.'s stronger efforts. Where would you put King when it comes to T.I.?
Ooh,
I think it's number two for me, but I, I don't know. I'm from Atlanta, so
trap music is
I
number
have
one.
a different
Trap
I
music is
have a
number one.
different attachment to trap music
Yeah,
that
I mean
the
same
rest
thing.
of the nation might not have.
I mean yeah, same thing. I was born in Charlotte, but raised down here, so
You were
I
here
did.
when trap music dropped, so
Yes,
you get it.
I remember when my man came and scooped me up and played it for me. I still remember that.
Mhm.
We went to the Dave
Same
and
here.
Buster's thing. We went to the Dave and Buster's in Gwinnett and shot pool. And he played it all the way from one north side to the other north side.
I don't know if trap music is highly regarded in other markets as it might be in the South. So
Are
that's
you
what I'm
sure?
saying. For some people, King might be number one, but I think King's number two. It's really close with Urban Legend. Those two are.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Like when I'm looking at it, I enjoy Paper Trail though. I think
A
Paper
lot of
Trail.
people like Paper Trail a lot.
I did. I enjoyed Paper Trail. Paper Trail is a really good record.
For me, what Paper Trail felt like, and it is a good record, it felt like it was T.I.'s first time of actually constructing an album and being serious about putting certain things together and trying to make a great album. You know what I mean? Like the other stuff just seemed like it flowed. Like he
It
was
was
just doing his
effortless. Yeah,
thing.
other stuff. The
Yeah,
other
Paper
stuff was.
Trail felt like
Yeah.
he was in the lab, like on some
Mm.
scientific, I'm gonna put this here, probably was paying attention to other albums and how they were constructed. I didn't feel like that with the other ones. But Paper Trail's number 4 to me. But based on his catalog, that's not too bad.
I will say this about King. I mean, What You Know to Me is one of the best songs to ever come out of Atlanta and the South. Period. Point blank.
I think it's his best single. Yeah.
No, no, no. Yes, like
Yeah.
it's one of the best rap songs ever, in my opinion.
Wow.
It
That's
was the
big.
it was if we're talking song, it was the best rap song that year. If we're talking one song, that was the song of the year.
I remember when I first heard that song, it was one of those rare situations where I saw the video first. And so he pulled up on 106 in Park. And it was kind of like when I first saw Jay-Z's Give It To Me for the first time. Just pulled up out of nowhere, and I was like, well, I haven't heard this song. It must not be that serious. And it was.
That's serious.
Same thing with Give It To Me, because Jay pulled up to 106, and he still had Volume 3 songs out at the time. And I was like, he dropping another song? I was like, this can't be that serious. And it was Give It To Me. But some people would say that Paper Trail is number 1 or 2 for him. So,
I'm
man,
like you. I'm like you. I would probably go trap music. King, Urban Legend, and then Paper Trail, most likely.
Mm,
Hey, the Nick was really really dope. Peanut Butter Jelly, uh, Project Steps,
mm-hmm.
um, Check Run It. Like the, I mean, it was only 5 records, but all 5 of those records were super dope.
What else was '06? Yeah, I think He'll Have No Fury is definitely album of the year
Then
'06.
I mean,
I wasn't I wasn't
no disrespect to Tip. It's like like if we were talking trap music versus Hell Hath No Fury, it's more of a conversation for me. But we're talking like Hell Hath No Fury versus King, so that's like the Clip's best, and that's 2 men and
versus
then
his third best, right?
Ti DJ Toomp. Like that's not like no like
But you know what's crazy though, and you talk about Hell Have No Fury not really having singles like that. This is the Neptunes, maybe not at the apex of their radio run, but they're still in it. And the Neptunes did the whole thing, and they weren't out there really shooting for singles like that.
their best
Mr. Me
production.
Too was dope, but I don't feel like it was a quote unquote, single.
Same thing with Wham Wham.
Yeah, Mr. Me Too's the shit.
It's great. The whole
Pharrell
album,
killed that.
flawless.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
flawless.
yeah. I think that was the single to go with. Anyway,
Yeah,
all right. So other people are saying that Jadakiss is in the running for album of the year too. How'd you like the Jadakiss album?
I enjoyed the Kiss. I thought it was dope. It was kind of it was unexpected. It might be it doesn't have the highlights of some of his other projects, and his highlights are really really high.
Yeah,
Like when he hits the mark, he hits the mark. But it's might be his most consistent project if we're talking song for song. But it doesn't have it doesn't have like a We Gonna Make It or Jason. I love Jason.
I think what a lot of albums miss is that edge, and I think that that's what the Westside Gunn album has. It has
I was
that
about to say,
edge.
so let's get back to Griselda. So they're having a moment, in my opinion, for me officially with this album because if you really looked at everything that they've done, pretty much about 2017 to now, it's pretty impressive, Mike. And it's
It is.
and I think much like how about this, just like how you were saying that trap music may be understated as a classic outside of this region. I think how dope they are maybe getting outstated outside of New York in the Upper East Coast area. Because it's like after listening to this album, now I really do get it. And I enjoy all these guys. But here's what I wanted to submit to you. What this struck me was that although, how about this? You're the Wu-Tang fan, so am I. Like really, Benny and Conway are more like Meth and Ray.
Okay.
And Westside has proven himself to be more like Ghost. It's like, is he the star that they are or have the charisma that they do? No, not quite, but he's close enough. Is he the
He's
lyricist
the
that they are?
glue.
But no, but here's what I was about to say. But when you start listening to the songs and the consistency of the songs and the greatness of the songs, then you start listening to his projects and then their projects. It's like, well, hold on. Like I know, like Meth and Ray are the stars, and they're like the guys that everybody's checking for MC wise. But this guy over here is actually the guy that's over here making the better records, and
I
that's
agree
what
with you.
just happened with this album to me. Because even when you hear him with Conway and Benny, you're probably enjoying Benny and Conway more. But they always seem to be doing it on his joint more than they're doing it on theirs.
Listen, my favorite Griselda song is on Supreme Blientele. Like, it is
Which
what
one?
it is.
Oh,
Brutus. Yeah.
oh, yes.
Yeah. And it's like it's the combination of, once again, it's the production, you know what I'm saying? And just the song structure. He knows what he's doing, man.
He knows what he's doing.
He knows
Like,
what he's doing.
how about this? Like when George Bondo came on, and then I about halfway through Conway's verse, okay, so this album might be a classic, like because it had that feel to it. I started looking at the cover. I already knew the production and the track list. You sent it to me, And I started like, and I heard the way that he started. I was like, oh, I was like, so they're having a moment. And like,
Now, what would
here's the
make
thing.
what would keep you from calling it a classic? Not to interrupt you, but what would keep you from calling it a classic? Just not being too hasty.
So I'm gonna get to that. You know how Supreme Clientele starts off
Mm-hmm.
with the joint with Jada?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Benny got Jada
I
on that?
think he did. I don't think Jada really knew what he was getting into. Like he was just doing
That
his
verse is,
thing.
those are two stellar verses. But here's what I would submit to you is that like they're proving themselves to maybe be better song makers than their East Coast hardcore predecessors in terms of like Jada Kiss styles. Uh, I wouldn't go as far as Mobb Deep because Mobb Deep has released a few classic albums in my opinion.
Yeah,
Um, but
singles too.
and singles. But
Mm-hmm.
how about this, dude? Like, I don't remember it being like this for like Dipset was the last time I remember somebody catching flame like this, and I think their stuff's better than Dipset stuff. And I'm a fan of Cam and Jim Jones and Jules.
It's different than Dipset. I think that the production Dipset had was better, but I do think they're
I don't
probably
agree with
better
that.
rappers.
I don't agree with that. That's what I mean when I'm saying
You
they're
think
having.
that their production's better than Dipset's production?
I've been listening to the tracks, like that's what I mean. I've been picking songs. It's like I kind of been going and picking back through their catalog too. Not like Benny's early stuff, like the last 2 years, pretty much. I've
Right,
been
right, right,
digging
right.
through. Like, yes, yes, I do, I
I
do.
think they're
That's what
better
I mean when
rappers,
I'm saying I
definitely.
think they're having a moment and it's going understated. So here's what I mean. Like lyrically, nothing really stands out on this album to me, even though it's wildly consistent. And that's why I kind of brought up Ghostface. Like, there's not one verse on Iron Man or Supreme Clientele necessarily where I'm like, oh my God, Ghost is, not
Really?
like, not like, there's not a verse like Impossible on there for me on Iron Man or Supreme Clientele. It's consistently like boom, 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 bam. They're kind of like that, but I don't know if they're at that same level that somebody like Array and Ghost were, or even Styles or Jada Kiss, lyrically speaking. Only lyrically,
Hmm.
because song wise, that's what I'm saying. They're making like Wu-Tang Clan prime level, like hardcore East Coast hip hop, like that you can enjoy. Like it's dope like that on that level. It made me
What?
feel like I was listening to the Infamous and like Hell on Earth and like murder music, like that kind of vibe to it, like in a good way.
Right. Well, what would you say to someone that says that their content isn't versatile enough?
So that's going to be the qualm with calling. So when you're saying, well, I'm not calling it a classic, that was the first thing I wanted to submit to you is that like a lot of people are going to feel like their predecessors are better MCs, but I think everybody like feels that way about this generation at this point. Like how about this? I don't think. Do you think Jadakiss or Styles have made an album this good?
Put me on the spot.
See, you're thinking about it. They've been around since we were in high school.
Yeah, I should have been able to just say, you know, yes or no off the top.
You
But
feel
I
what
guess
I'm
that
saying
means
when I'm
no.
telling you they're having a moment now? I didn't name like two average MCs. Like that's kissing Styles. And
See, the thing about
they've made
Jada,
classic upon classic shit, like in the streets, and they've made classic radio joints.
see, the thing about Jada, it's like Jada has been kind of pressured to go in there and make like radio singles in ways that these guys don't care about any of that. The style's not so much. And so I think that that level of focus where they could just focus on the hardcore fan helps their consistency and their fluidity, you know what I mean? And Jada has had to make the knock yourselves out and stuff like that to kind of, balance things out. So yeah, I would probably say that yeah, they have a leg up on them in a situation like that. So no, they probably haven't made a record
And
consistently better. But I'm gonna go back just to make sure Because the thing about it is, those records kind of have some holes in them because of those reaches that they were trying to make.
I mean, I think with both a lot of Jadakiss and Styles' album, I think it was just too many songs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. Like
I think this generation has mastered that part too. That I'm not gonna make a bunch of songs.
this is 13 songs, 41 minutes. There's an intro and interludes, and it's still only 41 minutes, Mike. That's what I'm saying. I named 3 records off the top of my head where Gunn just went in for a minute and 15, minute 20 seconds. The beat came in about 15, 20 seconds before, it stayed about 15, 20 seconds after. It's like 2 minutes long. That was 3 tracks. It was only like 6, 7 minutes he spent. And it's
So
smart. It sounds great.
what? All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What do you rank this on a scale from 1 to 10?
Hold on. Before I do that, see,
Okay,
I have one last question to ask you, because
go
here's
ahead.
like the first thing is the lyricism, but here's the second thing, and it might even be more important. An album with this kind of content, because the subject matter has been so tried, it's been so regurgitated, it's been such a galvanizing point and dividing point at times, depending on who you ask. When is the last time you heard what you would call like a gangster rap album or a dope album that was a classic? When's the last time you heard one? And more specifically, when's the last time you heard one from the East Coast?
Are we counting Daytona? Is that gangster? No.
I guess so.
We'll go a little bit more hardcore than that.
Like, how about this? Pusha's like gangster, but I don't know if that's a gangster rap album. I think one of the beautiful things about this album is that he actually toned it down a little bit and just kind of like had more fun with it instead of being so menacing.
Yeah. Let me think. Most of their music is menacing, and this one, it is a little brighter than the other ones. It's not as dark, but it still has that menacing feel to it.
Yes. So go ahead.
No,
So
no, no. Go ahead.
so that's what I'm saying. It's like I haven't heard a menacing album like this be called a classic since like Hell Hath No Fury. I'm like I keep on bringing up Hell Hath No Fury because I feel like it's about to get that same treatment where it's like I feel like it's one of the best like rap albums I've heard, but it's like I don't think anybody's really gonna notice like they should. It's like the head's gonna know, like when Hell Hath No Fury came out, like cats who know rap and know hip hop was like, whoa, like oh my
Hmm.
god.
The
Like this
general public, it kind of went over everybody's head.
the general public, it kind of went over everybody's head, and I don't want
There
that
was
for
no
this album.
grinding on there. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. And here's the
I
thing
think
about it.
grinding kind of hurt them in a way.
I mean, you think? I
Grinding
mean,
did for them in some ways like what Pump It Up was for Joe Budden. In some
no,
ways.
no, don't do that. That's
I'm not saying that. No, I love both records. Honestly, I love both records. I love Grinding more, but I think for a lot of people who wouldn't normally listen to the clips, they connected with Grinding, just like people who would normally listen to Joe Budden connected with Pump It Up. That's what I
it. Here's what I mean. Like, I think a Hell Hath No Fury in terms of the last time I heard an album with this kind of talk, because I kind of look at it as semi like a group album anyway because of the contributions. Like I mean that
mean.
album's not the same without Allah Sent Me and George Bondo. It's not the same without Griselda on there.
I went straight to those songs. I did.
I played it straight through, but I mean, you know what time it is.
But you
And
know
Gunn
what?
sounds great. And I mean, and here's what I mean. They're in a zone. Like they didn't go back and forth on Allah Sent Me. They went 3 the hard way with me. I ain't heard nobody do that in a very, very long time.
I expected consistency with that. I was really impressed by the Joey Badass and Tyler the Creator collaboration and the Wale collaboration. I didn't know how when I saw Wale's name on the back of that track list, I didn't know how that one was gonna go, and it went very well.
So that's the Ghostface moment that I'm talking about, where it's like he pulled something out of his bag that maybe the other cats in the camp can't necessarily pull out the bag or haven't yet, because that's the only record on there that I even heard that remotely should be a single or played on radio, possibly.
I agree.
Right? And
Hmm.
and here's what I mean about nitpicking a really really great album. He didn't have to say bitch, and it's like it's Gunn. You already got like your cred. It's like that's already radio ready for you. Like kind of like you can kind of skirt that and keep your cred, keep it pushing because the record's super dope. And once again, it shows that he's thinking because it fits right back into the theme and the name and the title of the album.
I
And
think that they're probably going to shoot a video for that. I think any of the actual, I won't say images, but the visuals. That's what I meant to say. Any of the visuals that they put together for this album, I think are going to be incredibly artistic and really reflect what the album cover is. Because like I said, the album art is fucking dope. When you look at that, I mean, and it's an
this has a
original
lot of
piece
the
too.
makings of a classic.
Yeah. The DJ Premier track is dope too.
Tell me your thoughts on that. How do you feel about that?
You know, it was like, because I was listening to it straight through after I listened to the two Griselda songs. And so it came towards the end, and I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. Like, I felt like the album was complete before it. This felt like a bonus.
Mm.
And I think that, and what I do also like, because I'm a Premier fan, I don't want to get it twisted or anything, but I do feel like a lot of Premier stuff kind of sounds really similar, using similar sounds and all that. I like how Premier adjusted his sound to what they do. And he made a track that fit within the soundscape of what this album was, as
If
opposed to just giving them a track that Premier already had on the reels. You know what I mean?
if he had this beat when him and RZA did the battle and he didn't play it, I have no idea why. He must have agreed with Westside that he wasn't going to drop it or something because the album was going to. I
Well,
don't.
you know. Right. The album wasn't out, but yeah, I feel you. I mean,
That's
that could have
another
helped.
look. That's another. Look, Mike. Beats are popping up that he could have won with.
Man, there's a lot of.
And the
Listen,
Prodigy sample was perfect because listening to that record up to that point was making me think like it was making me feel like I was listening to some great Mobb Deep stuff, some great Raekwon and Ghostface stuff, some great Lock stuff. That's how it was making me feel. So when Primo comes in, like, and it's starting, the album is getting towards the end, and it's with the Prodigy sample. Isn't that from Give Up the Goods?
mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I mean, we gonna talk about these beat battles real quick?
Hold on.
I want to talk about this
I
debate.
want to finish. I want to finish.
Go ahead.
Thing. So when I mean gangster rap album, I mean like the Infamous by Mobb Deep.
I don't think we had any of those on a mainstream level or on a massive level since like
That's
the
what
'90s. Honestly,
I mean straight out of Compton, niggas for life.
yeah,
The Crime.
yeah. The mainstream got really bright around the 2000s.
Only built for Cuban links.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could say part two, but you know.
I thought about part two. This album,
But it wasn't as gangster as the first.
As far as great as part two is, and it's really, really great.
Yeah, it is.
It's really great. That was the best record.
It's probably one of the better part twos ever in hip hop, I think. One of the better sequels.
It's the best part two ever. Is there a better part two?
There's a Carter 2 out there, depending on who you ask.
And you know what? That's my favorite Wayne album. That's Wayne's best album.
That's my favorite one, too.
I think it's his best album. I don't even actually think it's close. But,
I agree with you totally.
It's not even close to me. Like, when people bring up the Carter 4 3, I'm like, what are you talking about?
2 for me was between, because I felt like, 1, he was getting there, but he was still very Cash Money Wayne still. He was still wobbledy Wayne, but he was better. 2,
better.
He was there, and it was before he got mainstream Wayne. It was right there in that sweet spot.
You want to know what? It was when he was learning about learning how to become mainstream Wayne, but he had become a great MC, and that was the album where you found out he had become great. Like because
Yeah.
like by the time you're like done with the first three tracks in the cartoon, you're like, oh shit, Wayne's rhyming his ass off.
Yep.
You're like you're like
He was
oh
hungry.
you're like oh like after you what Money on My Mind, after you get done listening to Money on Your Mind, you're like, oh well, all right.
I love Money on My Mind.
That's probably my favorite Wayne record.
He sounded great over the running shit.
I don't like all the I don't like all that happy shit, Mike. That's not my thing. That's
Yeah.
part of why I love this album.
Hustler music was dope too, man. Like it made the Carter 2 made me look at Wayne in a whole different light.
Me too. How about this? The Carter 2 and King were the albums that I bought when I was living out in Cali because I was like a little homesick. And like I literally would just like put one of those in. I'd play King, take it out the CD. CDs existed once. Google it.
Yeah, forgot about those
Two
things.
in and just rode, 5405, 5591,
I love Cali, man. I kind of
260.
miss LA.
Oh man. Mike,
Go through my vinyls and stuff.
if the day can come that I can afford a driver and tolerate the traffic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the day.
That's the one thing about that, man. LA traffic. I never complained about Atlanta traffic again after driving to LA, man.
I mean, people don't understand. People be thinking I'm joking when I'm like, I used to keep like a blanket and a pillow in the trunk because you might get stuck somewhere like 2 o'clock in the morning and not move till like 3:30 or 4. You might as well catch you a couple Z's while you sitting there.
That's sick, man. All
True,
right,
true.
so on a scale from 1 to 10, what do you get an album?
I really want to give it a 10. Personally, for me, it's a 10.
All
But
right,
but objectively, I would say like somewhere between a 9 and a 9.5, and like no less than a 9.
all
Like
right. Well, there it is.
if you tell me that this album isn't really great, like if you don't think it's a classic like I do, so I'll say that. Like, cause Mike, I've listened to this album about 11 times,
Hey, man, that's great shit.
enjoyably. Like, how about this? I haven't listened to Jay Electronica's album that much yet, and I reviewed it.
Honestly, man, while we were talking about this, I forgot all about that album. Is
That's
that
what I mean.
album gone?
So here's what I mean, Mike. This is the type of album where it's like it's taking me out of my routine. So here's the thing. I'm always searching for something to take me out of my routine. And here's what I mean. When I get in my car, especially, with all of this going on, obviously not in my car as much. I'm just kind of letting you inside some of my normal routine. My daughter's with me a lot. So it's like I'm normally like on some sort of like Sade, Janet Jackson, Jill Scott, D'Angelo Maxwell type playlist. She's not really a super big rap fan. I'm an eclectic music lover. You know what I'm saying? I'd be trying to show her other stuff too. I might play like I was telling you a friend, I might play some Fleetwood Mac for her or something one day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely Prince, Michael Jackson, like all that. When I want to hear some hip hop, unless there's something new that I want to listen to, Mike, like I already got my stuff kind of cataloged. It's like it's feeling like a Tupac kind of day. Click. It's feeling like a Rick Ross kind of day. Click, click,
Right.
click. This album just destroyed all that. Like
That's
every time I
good.
got in the car, it's like cut that shit on. I don't care who's in the car. The only person I'm cutting that off for is my mother.
It's
It's like
always good to hear new music like that, man. It's nothing like new music. And I think people
yeah,
don't really understand that. And I feel like, we really sometimes really get caught up in nostalgia because hip hop has a huge, rich history and a lot of great stuff that you want to just go back to and things that you just want to hear or people that you want to hear, like you want to hear pop. But yeah, it's good to hear some new music that
it's
adds to that, where it's
it's
like, yeah, I'm gonna come back to this from years to come.
because here's the thing about it. Like here's what's so great about it, and here's where it has the Hell Hath No Fury context to it. Pusha's like 41 years old when Daytona dropped. How long have we been listening to Pusha? I've been listening to Pusha since they were the full Eclipse. Their first album's not their first album's not Lord Willem. It's exclusive audio footage. They
I've
had that
never
single,
heard
The
that album.
Funeral. The Funeral, you
Hmm.
remember The Funeral, Mike?
I remember the funeral. I didn't ever hear the album, but yeah, I
So
remember the
it was,
funeral.
it was a
The
pretty solid
video
album.
was
Like
fantastic.
you seen on some of the records, some of the things that could become and what they could be. You know, like they were talented, they were good, and it was coming together. But that's what I mean. Like Westside, even though he's older, he's closer to our age bracket, to the public, and to the scene, and in the album making process, he's still relatively fresh in that regard, even though he's done a hell of a lot of work. And I'm not
Hmm.
trying to make it seem like he hasn't done a hell of a lot of work, but since Supreme Blientele is really when people were like, "Oh, okay." Wouldn't you say? Would
Yeah,
you
yeah,
say?
yeah. He's dropped like 4 albums since then.
Yeah, but wouldn't you say Supreme Blientele was the one where people was really like, "Oh, oh,
Oh, definitely. That was
yeah."
breakthrough.
It was
Yeah.
breakthrough. That was his breakthrough moment. That was 2018, right?
Yep.
So we're in 2020, so that's in 2 years. So that's what I'm saying. It's fresh. When Pusha T's dropping Daytona, I've been listening to Pusha T since like freshman year of college, like
Yeah.
1999, 2000.
It's always good to hear new people jump on the
It's good
scene
to hear
and
it's
come with
fresh.
new
That's
shit.
what I mean about the freshness of it feeling classic. It feels like the infamous. It feels like Hell Hath No Fury. It doesn't feel like that older, later classic. It feels like that younger, newer, fresher classic, you know?
Yeah. And when you
Yeah.
talk to people who really weren't around for that generation, and this is like the fresh new stuff for them, the excitement that they have about Griselda, it reminds me of the excitement I had for that stuff. And I'm still excited about
Yeah.
Griselda too, but
I'm excited.
it's cool to
Uh,
see people experiencing this for the first time. And while it's happening.
I was meaning, like, it was funny. I got a little wrapped up today, but I was meaning to watch this thing where Conway and Alchemist were talking about his Lulu album or project that's coming
Mm,
up. Have you heard anything about that?
haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, yeah. Conway and Alchemist are working on a project called Lulu, Mike. I just like saw a little blurb for that earlier today. I just
Well, if
drifted off.
Alchemist is doing it, it's gonna get done. Cause my bad. Yeah,
No, you're good.
Alchemist gets stuff done. And what do you think about the speaking of Alchemist? Him and Havoc is supposed to be doing the battle next.
I knew you were doing that.
Yeah, segue into the battle
Tell
stuff.
people we don't rehearse this stuff. How about this?
No,
You know, the only show that we've actually talked about, like, are kind of pre-rehearsed, we still haven't even done yet. Like the rest of this stuff,
yeah,
we kind of like, we just kind of be talking, be like, hey, we should talk about this. Isn't that how this came up?
yeah, exactly. I got I got Havoc, I guess, in this matchup. And I'm saying it like that because Alchemist has a lot of stuff. He's one of those producers that'll pull out something and be like, oh, I forgot he made that.
What do you think,
He's
Alchemist? How about this? I'm just going to give you three beats that I know everybody knows. And that's probably going to be the difference between this because they're both really, really great and really, really underrated at the same time, in my opinion.
mm-hmm.
I don't think Havoc or Alchemist get nearly enough credit. They come from the same time as Primo. They're a little bit. They're younger than Primo and Pete Rock and Q-Tip and all those guys, and they kind of even came up under those guys. I mean, you don't want to put me on to the fact that Q-Tip got Mobb Deep's first album done. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But um, Havoc's pretty much going to win because he made Quiet Storm, Shook Ones Part Two, and Why. And Alchemist doesn't have those records that people have heard that they're really going to bang to because those records that he has like that, Havoc has those other records that cats know like that too. Like he has a couple like in the cut, like like I mean, you know, this is one of my favorite Nas records. You know, that's a Havoc beat on the setup.
I
Like
knew
he
you were
might,
gonna say the setup.
huh?
I said I knew you were gonna say the setup
That's one of
because I
his
was
best
thinking about
beats.
that too.
It's one of his best beats.
We used to
It is.
freestyle off of that because you know how it had like the whole ride out part or whatever. We used to
That's
catch
what
the
I
end of
mean.
that and just rhyme off of it.
And you know, and then that goes to, you know, the whole MC thing because they're both probably going to have their fair amount of Prodigy stuff. It's nothing like throwing Nas on. It,
Well, Havoc made Burn too, and that was kind of going to be
If
my
Havoc made
tiebreaker.
Burn, we were talking, we didn't know if Alchemist or Havoc made Burn. So
Yeah,
those four tracks, Mike. I mean, what's Alchemist gonna do with that outside of we gonna make it, keep it thorough? Give me another banger.
who made Worst Come to Worst? Did he make that?
Good question.
Let me see. What do you think about people trying to parlay for Puffy and Dr. Dre going against each other?
So I mean, see, here's what I mean when I'm like, it's getting so convoluted when we're talking about production because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you who made those beats, Mike?
Exactly.
Stevie J, Nasheem Myrick. Who else? Who am I missing? Who are the other two guys?
Well,
Derek
this is what I said.
D
Hold on,
Dot
let me
D
see.
Dot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, D. Dot Angelique. This is what I was saying when somebody I kind of put it out there today, and no disrespect to Puff, I think he's a great executive, but if we're talking about beats, I was like, what makes people think that Diddy is even on Dr. Dre's level when it comes to being a producer?
Executive
Um,
producer of debut albums. They're both probably the best that ever did it. If we're talking about those two guys and Russell Simmons are probably the best executive producers of debut albums ever in rap history.
Period. I would throw Rick Rubin in there too, but this is the thing. This
Russell's the
Puffy,
plug though. Like Russell's the
yeah.
plug. You know what I'm saying? He may not be
Is there
like
a track out there that we could just say Puff has his name on that doesn't say co-produce or doesn't have anybody else's name on it?
Mike. He already told us. Don't worry if he write rhymes. He write
I
checks.
ain't
Like
talking
don't make
about
beats.
rhymes.
He don't. He
Don't
don't.
worry if I make
Mike,
beats.
Mike. We already know what time. I don't even know why we doing this. Like we already know what time. Like we know what time it is with Puff. It's
Yeah,
gonna.
Alchemist made worse come to worse.
Alchemist made worse come to worse.
Yeah, yep, it's a good one. But nah, I mean,
Still
listen,
gonna lose. What? This is what I'm saying. It's like so. I'm just thinking Hell on Earth, Mike. The actual Hell on Earth beat, the Still Shining beat. The Still Shining beat was one of those cipher beats too, just like the setup was for Nas. Remember Still Shining? Still Shining was
hmm
all over the mixtapes and stuff too. Like Havoc's got heat, dude. Just the Mob Deep heat might be it. I like
this is
Al.
what make this interesting, right? I think the fact that Havoc's heat comes in the '90s, and a lot of the stuff that Alchemist has is more current day stuff. He could really wow people with some of the Kendrick
I
stuff
mean,
that he's done. He could wow people with,
haven't he done some stuff with Killer Mike that was pretty dope?
yeah, he's done stuff with a lot of people. Schoolboy Q, you know what
What
I'm saying?
Schoolboy
Like
Q joints did he do? Hold on, what Schoolboy Q joints did he do?
he did it's a Schoolboy Q joint that's on his album. Cause he's been coming out with albums like every year, and he got
Yeah.
heat on them joints. Um, Rock Marciano's been on this stuff. He could play some, people ain't really rocking with Action Bronson like that anymore. But him and Action Bronson made some really dope stuff.
I'm a big fan of Action Bronson, so. But I
hmm.
mean, he's cool. He's cool, but
I'm not. Hold. I can't be a fan of Action Bronson.
because you're such a Ghost fan.
I can't be.
Gunn, I'm telling you, man, Gunn reminds me of Ghost on this album, like the abstract imagery, the dope game references. It's very Iron Man-ish and like Supreme Clientelish to me. I'm not saying it's better than those albums.
He's clearly Ghost influence. I mean, with the Supreme Blind
Supreme
Tale
yeah.
shout out,
That has something to do with the
but
voice too. That's why I don't know why Cats is tripping. It's like y'all listen to Ghost. Ghost got a high pitched voice like that, and we're fine with Ghost.
Ghost is a way better rhymer though.
This is so that's what I mean when it's like he has this album of 10, but then you're gonna say shit like that. It's like, yeah, but he can't rhyme like Ghost.
No. I'm
Mike,
not
I
one of
hate
those people.
I,
I'm
I
not.
hate when people say that because it's like when people say that, it's like I started to realize it's like we've been around long enough. So it's like, well, damn it, how many guys rhyme like Ghost? How many
Right.
guys rhyme like Jay? How many guys
No,
rhyme
no,
like
no.
those
No, I
guys?
got you. No, you're right. I'm not holding
Just
that
those
against anybody.
guys.
I'm not one of those people that feels like you have to have perfect ability to make a perfect album. Now, I
Yes.
do think that
Okay.
there are some people that who don't have the skill level to make a classic album. I do believe that. But I
So
think that once you reach a certain skill level, you can make a classic.
so how about this? This was the album, much like Iron Man for Ghost, much like Hell Hath No Fury for the Clips, where they proved that they belong in that category. That's what I mean. This is a moment for him. Like he can I'm not gonna say he can take it this far, but he can kind of like he can go from Ghost to Method Man from this, you know? Because here's what I mean with French Toast. French Toast is so beautiful just because it's so unexpected. Kind of like All I Got Is You by Ghostface. It's like, hold on, you what? And it's and I'm not comparing the records because All I Got Is You by
No, I
Ghostface.
got you.
But I'm just saying in terms of that switch up where you see that different level and that depth to the character where you're like, ah, okay, cool, refreshing. And it's
Is it
okay.
fair to say that Westside Gunn is the star in Griselda?
That's what I was about to say, Mike. Like Benny and Conway might be the MCs, but they're not the star. So how about this? Like, do you think, I know a lot of cats feel this way. Do you think that Corrupt is a better MC than Snoop?
Yeah.
But he can never make Doggy Style.
Never.
Keep reminding you.
Never.
Same thing with Gunn.
You know
That's
what?
what I'm saying.
I have
Sometimes
another
the best
unpopular
guy,
opinion.
like sometimes you have to accept that the best guy isn't the best guy.
Who's the best? Well, I think the MVP of Death Row Records is Dr. Dre. But as a rapper, who is the quintessential best Death Row Records member? It's got to be Snoop. That was his house. Death Row was Snoop's house.
He built he built Death Row because I don't care what anybody say. He essentially made the Chronic and Doggy Style from a lyrical standpoint. And those are two of the most important. Those are not only two of the most important rap albums ever. Those are two of the best rap albums ever. So,
hands down.
So you know, even though Pac has All Eyes on Me and Machiavelli, and you know how I feel about Pac, neither one of those records is better than Doggy Style or the Chronic, Mike.
I think you said it perfectly when we were offline yesterday.
And I think Pac's a better MC than Snoop too, but he didn't write the shit on the Chronic, and he didn't make Doggy Style. Doggy Style, one of the best rap albums ever. Like I'll sit Doggy Style next to Illmatic and Reasonable Doubt and Cuban Links like any day and enjoy it just as much. And there's
I agree. I think it could be said that Doggy Style's better than Reasonable Doubt.
Yes, in my opinion, yes.
I think it can be. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. It hit the streets with a smash. Like we didn't really catch on to